everyone, and welcome to another Suncat Byte. Sorry, talking with the lisp there. Anyway, today's Suncat Byte is going to be a short one, but a very important one. And in today's Suncat Byte, we're going to talk about getline versus cin. So we've talked about cin quite a bit, haven't talked about getline very much. So we use cin when we're reading data in. Typically, we'll read in characters and integers with cin. Getline is actually used to read in anything but basically strings. So it reads data in until it sees an enter key. So the differences are cin. A couple characteristics of cin. It ignores leading white space characters. So if you have a bunch of space, it's going to ignore it. And it also, actually let's do it this way. And it reads values until it sees the first space, and it leaves the enter key in the keyboard queue. So we have this concept of a keyboard queue, which is basically the keys that are in the keyboard, that are typed in by the keyboard. So when you use cin, it leaves the enter key in the keyboard queue. Getline, a little bit different, right? We do getline. It's designed to mostly used to read strings in. Format of a getline is getline, and where you're reading in from, in our case right now it'll be cin, and then the variable you're reading to, which is, like I said, typically a string. Okay, and characteristics of getline are it reads until it sees the enter key, and it stops once it sees the enter key, but it removes the enter key from the queue. So if we have a program that reads numbers with cin and strings with getline, we need to be careful that we don't allow the enter key left by cin to be read by getline. Okay, if we do that, just put a dash here. So if we do that, then getline, remember getline is going to read until it sees an enter key. Will act like it ignores the read and skip over it, because it's actually seen the enter key and does not read what you intend. Okay, let's look at this in an example of intend. So let's look at this with an example. This is actually in your book. So we have int number string color. We have cout, enter a number, cin number, cout, enter a color, getline, cin color. In this case, let's say when we do the cin here, right there, when we do the cin, that our user enters the number 42. So we have the number 42. This enter key is actually left in the keyboard queue. This represents the keyboard queue. So now, when we come to read in at the getline, we're looking here at the keyboard queue, and it has an enter key. So then The get line comes in, it sees an enter key, and it's done. It never actually reads anything in from the user. So the user doesn't have a chance to enter in, let's say, blue. So they enter 42 and then blue. They can't actually enter in blue because it sees that get line, the get line sees that enter key, and it's done. So in order to remedy this, we have something called cin.ignore. And what ignore does is it's a function that removes the enter key from the keyboard queue. So we want to call that function right after we use cin so that the enter key is removed. And it's the ignore function. Cin is what we're calling it on. The function is actually ignore. So say up here, we had cout enter a number. If we're going to take that code, what we would do is we would say cout enter number. Then we would say cin number. Nothing different here, right? That's where the user would enter 45. But then we would do cin.ignore here to remove that. And then we would continue on with the other code, which was cout enter a color, and then we'd have our get line, and we're reading our get line, and from cin to color, done. So keep this in mind when you're writing your programs, because if you get to a point where you have a get line and your data doesn't seem like it's being input, you may have a cin, the last cin before the get line, basically you didn't do a cin.ignore. So if you're going to use cins and get lines, if you're going to read in like integers or chars and then strings later, it's easier to read and better to read strings in with get lines. Then you want to use cin.ignore after every cin or after the last cin in a string of cins. Basically, you have to have that cin.ignore to take that key out, that enter key out before you get to the get line. That's it for this SuncatByte. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you have office hours on Tuesday, Thursday night. You have discussion board forum, and you can email me. That's it, and talk to y'all soon. Bye.